Greetings all, Dr. X here. Welcome back. All right, for this assignment today, we're going to work on three things. First, we are going to prepare journal entries to record the transactions that you see here on the left-hand side. Then we're going to post the transactions to the general ledger. And finally, we are going to complete a trial balance based on the information we enter in the general ledger. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare journal entries, and we are going to exclude explanations for each one. Now, you guys know that I love using me some color here, so I'll be highlighting entries as I get them done. First up, on February 1st, Dr. Douglas invested $20,000 cash in the business. So it's $20,000 on the debit side and $20,000 on the credit side. Dr. Douglas invested cash, so cash is on the debit and credit is owner's equity. So it would be Douglas. So the first entry is cash on the debit and Douglas Capital on the credit. Next up, on February 3rd, Douglas purchased equipment worth $10,000 with a $500 down payment. So we have equipment purchased for $10,000, and it tells us that cash was paid in the amount of $500 as the down payment. So the remainder is due in 30 days, which means that Douglas now has an accounts payable because it's money that the company owes, and that is in the amount of $10,000 minus the $500, $9,500. So that takes care of the entry for the third. On February 6th, we paid $1,200 for a 6-month insurance policy. So we purchased prepaid insurance in the amount of $1,200, and we paid cash for that purchase. So on February 8th, we received $4,000 cash from customers for services rendered. So we received cash in the amount of $4,000, and that was for service fees we charged to our customers. So for the purposes of this exercise, the service fees are revenue. On February 13th, we paid wages in the amount of $1,750. That's a wages expense, and how we paid for it was with cash. February 16th, we received and paid an advertising bill. So we received and paid it at the same time. So on the 16th, we had an advertising expense in the amount of $250, and we used cash to pay that. Okay, so the first page of our general journal is full, so now we move down to the second page. So the first entry on the second page of the journal is February 17th. I'm going to just change the color so I remind myself this is on page 2. We performed services worth $2,500 for a credit customer. So what we're giving them is an accounts receivable bill in the amount of $2,500. In other words, they owe us, but we've already completed the service, so this is our services fee in the same amount on credit. Okay, on to February 20th, we received, so 3 days later, they're going to pay us part of what they owe us. So that brings us cash in, or it brings Dr. Douglas some cash in the amount of $1,700. And because here we debited accounts receivable, now we're going to credit accounts receivable for the amount of cash they're giving us toward payment. February 25th, Dr. Douglas withdrew $5,000 cash for personal use. So that's a drawing, Douglas drawing, and cash paid for it. Last entry, on February 27th, we paid a utility bill in the amount of $205. That's a utility expense for $205, and we use cash to pay for it. Okay, so we completed the entries from the information we're given here on the transactions. Now for our post reference is the next thing we'll enter on the journal. For the post reference, all you have to do is enter whatever the account is, enter that account number. Now I have the chart of accounts here. I'm going to use this to help me enter the numbers. So any place you see cash, it's on the post reference, you're just going to enter 101. I'll do the second page first since it's closest. We also see we have an accounts receivable, so that's 102. We have service fees, which is consulting services fee here, which is 401. Oh, I misspelled accounts receivable. Lovely. So, so for accounts receivable, again, that's a 102. Cash is a 101. And Douglas Drawing is 302. So now we've entered all the post references for page number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the references for page number 1, and I'm going to spell check all of my entries since I was typing so fast. And then I'll get right back to you. Okay, so now I have all the post references in. That takes care of part 1. Let's move on to the second part of the assignment, which is post the transactions to the general ledger. So all you're going to do in this is move your general journal entries over to the general ledger. So from the number of sales here, you can tell cash is going to have the most entries, the most information to move over. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with accounts receivable just to show you how it's done. So if we look at our journal, accounts receivable, it looks like we have one here and a second entry here. So we're going to just move those over to accounts receivable on the ledger. Yes, I spelled it correctly this time. And here's the thing though, remember you're always going to proof everything before you're done. So for the post reference inside of your ledger, what you're going to refer back to is the journal page number. So in this case, we're looking at J2 for general journal page 2. So that entry will be a 2. And this first one is on the debit side. This should be just a running balance of whatever's on that row. The next one looks like on the 20th, they made a payment that is still on journal page 2. And this time we have a credit of $1,700. And then again, we're just doing a running total. So in this case, you have the balance and credit equals minus. Credit is going to be deducted from that amount. So that leaves us with 800. Let's do this again for prepaid insurance. So prepaid insurance is on journal page 1, and it looks like there's only one entry on both journal pages. So we enter February 6th, prepaid insurance. Our post reference is J1 because it's on the first page. And it looks like this is a debit. It's in the debit column. And our running balance is $1,200. So prepaid insurance is $1,200. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to move all the entries over so that we have the running balance for each account. I'm not going to show you step by step each one. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back to you as soon as I get these entered. And just like that, it's done. All right, so you'll notice what I use color coding so that I can make sure that every entry from this side is on this side, from the journal is added to the ledger. So if you'll notice what I said before, all of these cash entries, there's quite a few. To balance out the cash entries, again, you just take whatever the row total is, you add any place you've had a debit gets added to this balance. Any place you've had a credit gets subtracted from that balance. So 20,000 minus 500 is 19,500, etc. So once you're done, then you'll have all of the balances on your general ledger. So the balance currently on cash is $16,795. On accounts receivable is $800. On prepaid insurance, $1,200. $10,000 on office equipment. The balance on credit is accounts payable is $9,500. $20,000 for Douglas Capital. $5,000 again on debit for Douglas Drawing. For our consulting service fees is $6,500. Wages expense is $1,750. Advertising expense is $250. And utilities expense is $205. So now what you do is you just double check, make sure this information that you see here is entered on this side, making sure all your post references on your general ledger will be for your journal pages, and then you'll be ready to move on to the third part of the assignment. And for the third part of the assignment, we're going to do a trial balance. Okay, for your trial balance, now remember what I said, the easiest way to do the trial balance is to do everything that's on the credit side first to give you a balance, and then everything that remains will go on the debit side. So on the credit side, there are 3 accounts. Their balances need to be on the credit side for this equation. That's accounts payable, Douglas Capital, and your services fee. So our accounts payable, we scroll down to that balance. Douglas Capital, scroll down to that balance, and services fee. And then we use Excel to total up the amount for this whole column. $36,000. Now, everything else is on the debit balance. All of the rest of these accounts are on the debit balance, and they go in this column. So cash balance goes here, etc. So I'm going to go and enter those, and I'll be right back. And then we sum up everything in this column. It equals $36,000. That means it all balances. So $36,000 on the trial balance. Now, all there is for you to do is go back and do some double checks. Make sure you've entered all the post-reference information right. Make sure you spelled everything correctly. Yeah, I got to go back and double check my stuff. In the meantime, the numbers all add up, so that's a good thing. Now listen, if you have questions about anything I've covered in today's video, go ahead and leave those for me in the comments below. If you have recommendations for future accounting videos you'd like to see me make, go ahead and leave those as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful week. And here are a couple of videos that YouTube thinks you will like if you like this video. Have a great week.